Jimmy Butler, from homeless to Miami Heat legend. Let me tell you something right quick. If you told 13-year-old Jimmy Butler he'd be the face of the Miami Heat and an NBA Finals MVP candidate, he might have laughed or swung on you, because that boy was literally homeless, sleeping wherever he could find a couch and a family willing to take him in for a few nights. His mother kicked him out in middle school with words that would haunt most people forever. "I don't like the look of you." Now, I've heard some cold-hearted lines in my day, but that one cuts deeper than most. Jimmy bounced from couch to couch, lived with different friends and their families, worked odd jobs just to survive. Basketball became the only constant in a life filled with uncertainty and rejection. He wasn't any prodigy either. This isn't one of those child phenom stories where scouts were tracking him since elementary school. Jimmy wasn't heavily recruited, had to take the junior college route just to get noticed by Division I programs. Marquette eventually took a chance on him, seeing something in his work ethic and determination that raw talent alone couldn't provide. Chicago took him with the 30th pick in 2011, practically the last pick of the first round, back when most casual fans barely knew his name unless you were a dedicated scout with an eye for potential rather than polish. The Bulls saw a project player who might develop into a solid role player if everything went perfectly. When the Bulls drafted him, Jimmy Butler was just a quiet kid who hustled harder than anyone in practice but couldn't shoot consistently enough to be considered a legitimate scoring threat. Tom Thibodeau, known for his demanding coaching style and defensive intensity, made Jimmy grind like his life depended on every possession. Instead of wilting under that pressure, Jimmy embraced it completely. The transformation wasn't immediate or dramatic. It was gradual, methodical, and absolutely relentless. He went from being a defensive specialist who was afraid to shoot, to a reliable two-way player, to a 20-point scorer, then an all-star, and finally the undisputed face of multiple franchises. Every step of that journey required him to add new skills while maintaining the defensive intensity that got him drafted. And the best part about Jimmy's rise, he never stopped being authentically himself. The cornrows, the trash talk, those vintage Michael Jordan fadeaways that he practiced obsessively. Who else drinks coffee like it's fine wine, listens to country music before playoff games, and carries himself like he's starring in a 90s action movie? His playoff performances have become the stuff of legend. He carried Miami to the 2020 finals in the Disney bubble, where he dropped a 40-point triple-double against LeBron James and Anthony Davis, two players who were supposed to be overwhelming favorites. He did it all with pure grit, no superstar teammates to lean on, and that nasty mid-range pull-up that breaks defenders' ankles and their confidence. The man literally went from sleeping on friends' couches because his own mother rejected him to owning South Beach and becoming one of the most respected leaders in professional basketball. That transformation isn't just about developing basketball skills. It's about heart, determination, mental toughness, and absolutely refusing to let circumstances or other people's opinions define your ceiling or limit your dreams. Draymond Green, the undersized champion who built a dynasty. Draymond Green might be the most polarizing star in the NBA. Talks too much, can't shoot consistently, collects technical fouls like they're rare trading cards. But here's the thing that makes his story incredible. He wasn't supposed to be any of this. Back in college at Michigan State, scouts constantly criticized his physical limitations and questioned whether his skills would translate to professional basketball. They said he was too slow to guard quick forwards, too short to bang with traditional big men, couldn't jump high enough to be effective around the rim. His college statistics were solid but not spectacular, and his combine measurements confirmed every scout's worst fears about his athletic limitations. Draymond Green slid all the way to pick 35 in the 2012 draft. That's firmly in you might not even make the final roster territory. Most second-round picks spend their rookie seasons bouncing between the NBA and the development league, hoping to catch someone's attention with impressive garbage-time performances. But Draymond approached his opportunity with a completely different mindset than typical rookies focused on individual statistics and personal development. He didn't care about looking aesthetically pleasing on highlight reels or dropping 30 points every night to impress casual fans. All Draymond wanted to do was make his teammates better, ruin opposing teams' offensive schemes, scream at referees and opponents with equal intensity, and then find Stephen Curry for perfectly timed transition three-pointers like it was the most natural thing in the world. Draymond became the intellectual and emotional engine of the Golden State Warriors dynasty, the defensive coordinator, the pace setter, the vocal leader who held everyone accountable regardless of their salary or reputation. Without Draymond's versatility and basketball IQ, there's no strength in numbers philosophy. There's just Steph and Clay launching three-pointers while getting systematically destroyed in the paint and on the boards. His defensive versatility became legendary throughout the league. He could guard point guards on switches, battle seven-footers in the post, protect the rim rim when needed, and quarterback fast break opportunities like a point guard in a power forward's body. He led the Warriors in assists, rebounds, technical fouls, flagrant fouls, and championship celebration parades. When critics tried to diminish his impact by pointing to his inconsistent jump shot and modest scoring averages, Draymond would just smile and point to his championship rings. Because at the end of the day, basketball success isn't measured by individual statistics or highlight reel moments. It's measured by winning games when they matter most and making your teammates better than they would be without you. Draymond represents the type of player that every casual fan claims to hate, but every serious basketball fan secretly wishes their team had. He's the guy you absolutely despise when he's wearing the other team's uniform, but if he was on your squad, you'd defend him through any controversy because you understand how much winning basketball he brings to every single possession. He wasn't built for the league according to traditional scouting reports and physical measurements, but he became the foundational piece that helped build a dynasty that changed how basketball is played at the highest level. Sometimes the most important player on a championship team isn't the one with the prettiest individual statistics. It's the one who makes everyone else better while doing all the essential work that doesn't show up in box scores. David Wesley, from insurance salesman to NBA starter. This story sounds so ridiculous that I had to verify it through multiple sources because it seems too unlikely to be true. David Wesley was 5'11" in basketball shoes, went completely undrafted despite a solid college career, and couldn't even secure a spot in what was then called the Continental Basketball Association, the primary developmental league for NBA hopefuls. So what did this aspiring professional basketball player do while watching his dreams seemingly evaporate? He got a job selling life insurance policies to make ends meet. Yeah, while other players were grinding through summer leagues, attending workouts, and chasing their basketball dreams through traditional channels, David Wesley was sitting in an office cubicle with a telephone headset trying to convince strangers to purchase term life insurance policies. Picture this, a guy who spent his entire life dreaming of playing professional basketball, now wearing a business suit and tie, making cold calls about death benefits and premium payments while his real passion sat on hold. He probably had insurance rate charts pinned to his cubicle wall right next to old basketball photos, living a double life between corporate America and athletic ambition. But Wesley refused to completely abandon his basketball dreams, even while working a traditional 9-to-5 job that had nothing to do with sports. He kept his skills sharp by playing in local recreational leagues, showing up to open gym sessions, and maintaining his conditioning during lunch breaks and after work hours. His persistence eventually earned him an opportunity with the Continental Basketball Association. From there, David Wesley began the slow, methodical climb up the professional basketball ladder. He worked his way through the minor league system, proving himself at each level, gradually earning more responsibility and recognition. Each promotion represented years of dedication, improvement, and refusing to accept that his basketball career was over. By the mid-1990s, Wesley had earned a roster spot with the Boston Celtics, not as a bench warmer or garbage time specialist, but as a legitimate rotation player who contributed to winning basketball. He then had successful stints with Charlotte, New Orleans, and Houston, establishing himself as a reliable veteran guard who understood his role and executed it consistently. Over the course of his NBA career, Wesley accumulated more than 11,000 points and made 8 playoff appearances. He wasn't a superstar, didn't make all-star teams, and most casual fans probably couldn't pick him out of a lineup today. But his career represents something more valuable than individual accolades. Proof that persistence and professional dedication can overcome initial rejection and limited opportunities. Wesley didn't possess elite athleticism, couldn't dunk spectacularly, didn't have a signature move or memorable catchphrase. What he brought to every team was effort, defensive intensity, basketball intelligence, and the kind of mental toughness that only develops when you've experienced real failure and fought your way back from it. The fact that he had to sell life insurance policies while chasing his basketball dreams means he understood what regular employment looked like, what financial stress felt like, and what it meant to work for something that wasn't guaranteed. That perspective made him appreciate every NBA paycheck, every playoff appearance, and every moment he got to live his dream professionally. David Wesley will never be inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame, and ESPN won't be making any documentaries about his career, but he accomplished something that might be even more impressive than winning championships or individual awards. He beat astronomical odds through sheer determination and refused to let other people's limitations define his potential or his future. Fred VanVleet, the undersized overachiever. If you've ever doubted yourself because of your size, physical limitations, or lack of natural gifts, Fred VanVleet's story should be your personal playbook for success. He came out of Rockford, Illinois, a city that's not exactly known for pumping out NBA talent like some AAU factory in Los Angeles or Atlanta. Van Vliet was 5'11" on a good day, had no vertical leap to speak of, was barely recruited by major colleges, and looked more like your cousin who works at Foot Locker than a future NBA champion. He ended up at Wichita State because nobody else really wanted him, and even there he had to prove himself every single day. Undrafted in 2016, nobody called his name, no combine invite, no summer league opportunities, no agent trying to get him workouts. When the draft ended, Fred VanVleet was just another college player whose basketball career appeared to be over before it really started. Toronto took a flyer on him as an undrafted free agent, and he made them pay attention the hard way, dominating in practice, excelling in the G League, and making the most of every garbage time opportunity, until one day, he stopped being a footnote and started hitting playoff daggers that mattered. During the 2019 finals run, VanVleet was absolutely unconscious, hitting pull-up threes over Stephen Curry, playing defense like his children's college tuition depended on every possession. He played like he had something to prove every single second, because he did. Everyone had counted him out his entire life. Now he's got a championship ring, a $130 million contract, and respect as one of the most solid leaders in the entire league. He went from being completely overlooked to getting overpaid in the best possible way. And the most impressive part, he still plays with that same chip on his shoulder, like he's still trying to make the roster as an undrafted rookie. Nikola Jokić, the MVP drafted during a commercial. You know you've been disrespected when the NBA doesn't even show your draft selection on television. That's exactly what happened to Nikola Jokić. Pick 41 in 2014. His name appeared on screen during a Taco Bell commercial. No highlight package, no suit and tie moment, just a burrito advertisement and some Serbian guy named Jokic that nobody in America had ever heard of. But look at him now. Two-time MVP, NBA champion, arguably the best passer in the league despite being 7 feet tall and moving like he's wearing concrete boots. The man has revolutionized what we think a center can and should do on a basketball court. Let's rewind to understand how unlikely this was. Jokic wasn't even supposed to make it out of Serbia as a professional prospect. He was overweight, slow, barely ran the floor properly, and if you'd asked anyone back then, they would have said he looked like someone who played pickup basketball in blue jeans and work boots. Denver took a chance on him quietly, with zero expectations and minimal fanfare. But from his first professional games, Jokic showed flashes of basketball genius that couldn't be taught or replicated. Touch passes like Magic Johnson, court vision like a point guard, and a basketball IQ that made the game look like it was being played in slow motion while everyone else was buffering on bad Wi-Fi. Fast forward to today, and he's averaging 27 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists while shooting like a guard and passing like he has eyes in the back of his head. He's casually dominating the entire league without breaking a sweat, raising his voice, or even talking trash to opponents. You ever notice that Jokic doesn't celebrate, doesn't flex, doesn't scream after big plays? He just destroys teams methodically, then goes home to ride horses and drink Coca-Cola out of glass bottles like some kind of basketball cowboy. All of this from a second-round pick who couldn't dunk a tennis ball as a teenager and got drafted during a fast food commercial. Damian Lillard, the small school superstar. When you come from a small college, they tell you two things that stick with you forever. You have to be twice as good as everyone else just to get noticed. And even then, you'll probably still get passed over for someone from a bigger program with better connections. That's exactly what Damian Lillard faced coming out of Weber State. A school so unknown that most people couldn't find it on a map unless they had a cousin who went there. No blue blood program, no deep NCAA tournament run, just a kid from Oakland with a massive chip on his shoulder and a jump shot that could light up entire cities. Scouts kept saying he was too raw, hadn't played against real competition, wasn't ready for the speed and athleticism of professional basketball. But Dame showed up to the NBA and immediately started cooking everybody like it was a summer league game at Rucker Park. Rookie of the year, hitting logo threes before they became trendy, ice water running through his veins in clutch moments. Every time he hit a game winner, he'd just stare at the crowd, cold, quiet, surgical in his celebration. But what makes Lillard truly different from most superstars is his loyalty. He could have jumped ship to chase championships, could have demanded trades to bigger markets or formed super teams with other stars. Instead, he stayed in Portland, the rainy, overlooked, stuck-in-the-middle Trailblazers, and built his own legend from scratch. He dropped 71 points one night just because he felt like making history. Ended Oklahoma City's playoff hopes with that ridiculous buzzer beater from the logo, then waved them home like it was bedtime. Never flinched under pressure, never folded when the stakes were highest. Dame isn't just a basketball player. He's a blueprint for how to build something meaningful from nothing. From overlooked small school prospect to undeniable superstar to unforgettable legend, all while staying true to his principles and the organization that believed in him first. Zach Randolph, from problem child to Memphis legend. Back in the early 2000s, you couldn't mention Zach Randolph without someone bringing up his issues, and had a reputation for having a hot temper, off-court drama, and an on-court style that was painfully slow and completely unorthodox by modern standards. He wasn't athletic, wasn't jumping out of the gym, wasn't fitting any traditional mold of what a successful NBA player should look like. Randolph came into the league carrying every red flag imaginable, drafted by Portland during their infamous Jail Blazers era when the team was known more for legal troubles than basketball success. For several years, he lived up to the worst expectations. Suspensions, fights, attitude problems. People genuinely believed he'd be out of the league within 5 years. Just another cautionary tale about talent not being enough when you can't stay out of trouble. But here's what nobody expected. Zach Randolph grew up. He learned from his mistakes, matured as a person, and when he finally landed in Memphis, that's when everything clicked into place. He became the heart and soul of the grit and grind Grizzlies. His throwback style of play, posting up using every inch of his body to create space, hitting that automatic elbow jumper, became the perfect foundation for Memphis basketball. Players would try to bang with him in the paint, and Z-Bo would just shrug like, "This is what I do," and proceed to dominate them with footwork and fundamentals. He led Memphis to the playoffs year after year, took down powerhouse teams like the San Antonio Spurs, battled superstars like Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, and brought respect to a franchise that had never been feared by anyone. The city of Memphis loved him like family because he represented their blue-collar mentality. Zach Randolph completely transformed his narrative from problem child destined to fail to cornerstone player who brought respectability to a franchise. That transformation doesn't happen by accident. It takes genuine personal growth, professional dedication, and the wisdom to understand that talent means nothing without character. Andre Iguodala, from failed star to championship catalyst. Andre Iguodala was always talented. Coming out of Arizona, he looked like the complete package. Incredible athleticism, elite defense, could pass, handle, and dunk with the best of them. But when Philadelphia drafted him and expected him to become their franchise cornerstone, the pressure revealed some uncomfortable truths. They wanted him to be Allen Iverson's successor, to carry the offensive load and be the guy for an entire organization. But that wasn't Iguodala's natural role, and it showed in painful ways. He was clearly an all-star level player, but he wasn't built for high-usage, isolation-heavy basketball that required him to create his own shot constantly. When Philadelphia struggled to meet expectations, fans turned on him quickly. Here was an Olympic gold medalist and one of the best perimeter defenders in basketball getting booed by his own fan base because he couldn't single-handedly carry a franchise to championship contention. So Iguodala made one of the smartest career decisions in modern NBA history. He completely reinvented his role and his expectations. After getting traded and bouncing around, he landed in Golden State right as Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green were forming something special. Instead of demanding touches and recognition, Iguodala bought into being the perfect role player. He accepted a bench role, focused entirely on defense and playmaking, became the veteran voice and emotional leader that young teams desperately need. During the 2015 finals, he took on the impossible assignment of guarding LeBron James full-time while also providing clutch shooting and decision-making. He completely changed that series with his defense and timely shot-making, earning Finals MVP honors in the process. Andre Iguodala went from being a failed franchise player to becoming the exact piece that transformed the Warriors from a good team into a dynasty. That transformation required incredible humility, basketball IQ, and the wisdom to check his ego at the door for the greater good. Lou Williams, the bench legend. If you get drafted straight out of high school in the second round, conventional wisdom says you'll be lucky to last 2 seasons in the league. Maybe you'll make a roster. Maybe you'll score some garbage time buckets. But that's probably the extent of your professional basketball career. Lou Williams took that conventional wisdom and absolutely destroyed it, coming straight from Georgia high school basketball, skinny as a rail but with a game smoother than anything you'd ever seen. No major hype, no spotlight, no expectations from anyone. But from his very first professional games, Lou Williams had one undeniable skill that kept him employed for nearly 2 decades. He could get buckets in ways that defied logic and physics. Floaters, step-back jumpers, off-balance runners, whatever the situation required. Didn't matter if he was starting, coming off the bench, or being asked to play point guard or shooting guard. Lou Will was going to get you 20 points somehow. He did this consistently for almost 20 years, bouncing between Toronto, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and both Los Angeles teams. What's even more impressive is how he redefined what it meant to be a sixth man. 3-time Sixth Man of the Year winner, most bench points in NBA history, he made coming off the bench not just acceptable, but actually cool and valuable. Lou Williams proved that you don't need to be a starter to be a legitimate star. You don't need to be on magazine covers to earn a place in basketball history. All you need is an unshakable confidence in your ability to score and the willingness to embrace whatever role helps your team win games. His legacy isn't just about individual statistics. He changed how front offices value bench production and showed an entire generation of players that there are multiple paths to NBA success and financial security. CJ McCollum, from unknown to unstoppable. CJ McCollum didn't just fly under the recruiting radar. He wasn't even visible on it. No major college offers, no ESPN highlight reels, no social media buzz. He ended up at Lehigh University, which sounds less like a Division I basketball powerhouse and more like where your aunt takes evening accounting classes. But McCollum's breakout moment came during the 2012 NCAA tournament when Lehigh pulled off one of the most shocking upsets in March Madness history, beating Duke's heavily favored squad. And leading that historic upset? CJ McCollum dropping 30 points on Coach K's team and making everyone frantically Google where is Lehigh University located. That single game cracked open the spotlight that had eluded him throughout his college career. Suddenly, NBA scouts were paying attention, general managers were asking questions, and McCollum found himself projected as a legitimate first-round draft pick. Portland selected him 10th overall, and initially, he didn't even get significant playing time. He sat behind veteran guards, dealt with injuries, and spent his rookie season largely forgotten by casual fans and media members. But once CJ got his opportunity to play meaningful minutes, he never looked back. Paired with Damian Lillard, McCollum became a certified bucket getter with one of the smoothest mid-range games in basketball. His silky handle and ice-cold step-back jumper made him impossible to guard in isolation situations. When the Trailblazers needed clutch performances, CJ consistently delivered. His 37-point Game 7 performance against Denver showed he could carry a team when the pressure was highest and the stakes mattered most. From receiving 0 Division I scholarship offers to becoming one of the most consistent 20-point scorers of his generation, CJ McCollum's journey proves that basketball success isn't always about where you start. It's about what you do once you get your chance to prove yourself. Gilbert Arenas, the forgotten gunslinger. If you want to understand what complete disrespect looks like, Gilbert Arenas got drafted 31st overall in the second round after his agent confidently told him he'd go in the top 10. And he showed up to the draft in an expensive suit, expecting to hear his name called early, and instead watched 30 other players get selected ahead of him. Instead of accepting that rejection and quietly trying to make a roster somewhere, Gil turned that pain and embarrassment into pure basketball fuel. He landed with Golden State and quietly started proving that 30 teams had made a massive mistake. Then he got to Washington, and that's when Agent Zero was truly born. Gil started pulling up from 30 feet before it was fashionable, dropping 60 points on Kobe Bryant while talking trash the entire game, hitting game winners with signature celebrations that became legendary. He wasn't just scoring, he was entertainment in its purest form. Gilbert Arenas brought a whole different energy to the league that was flashy, fearless, and slightly unhinged in the best possible way. When he was locked in and focused, he was one of the most creative and unstoppable scorers the NBA had ever seen, but the same fearlessness that made him special on the court eventually led to his downfall off it. Locker room incidents, gambling disputes, and ultimately the infamous gun situation that ended his career just as he was reaching his absolute peak. From all NBA selections to being completely out of the league in what felt like overnight. But during his prime, Gilbert Arenas was absolutely unconscious, pulling up from anywhere on the court like he was playing NBA 2K with cheat codes enabled. He always played with that second round chip on his shoulder, that y'all didn't believe in me, now watch this mentality that made every shot feel personal and every game feel like a statement. These stories should serve as inspiration for anyone who's ever been told they're not good enough, not big enough, not fast enough, not talented enough, or just not built for whatever they're passionately pursuing. Sometimes the most unlikely success stories become the most meaningful ones because they prove that human determination and professional dedication can triumph over natural advantages and inherited gifts.